Breaking news! There's a name starting to ripple through the Ravens fan base. A player who came into Baltimore without the hype of a draft pick, without the fanfare of a blockbuster signing, but with the kind of grit and football IQ that could force coaches to keep him around. We're talking about a rookie who has already made some noise in preseason action, shown flashes that remind fans of iconic plays from Ravens history, and now has the door wide open to seize a meaningful role. But before we move on, make sure you hit that like button if you're a true Ravens fan. It's always amazing to see fans of all ages supporting this team. And if you feel like it, comment, "Go Ravens," so I know you're riding with the flock this season. Let's get right into it. Jay Higgins, undrafted, overlooked, and already proving that was a mistake. In the first preseason game, Higgins didn't just show up. He made a statement. From sharp tackles to a perfectly timed interception that drew comparisons to C.J. Mosley's division-clinching pick against Baker Mayfield in 2018, Higgins put himself on the radar. But the real magic showed up when you dig deeper into the film. There's no hesitation in his reads, no wasted steps, no happy feet searching for the play. Instead, it's decisive recognition, fluid movement, and a knack for being in the right spot at the right time. For an undrafted rookie to look this smooth, this ready, it's the kind of thing that gets a coaching staff's attention fast. Now, picture this, Higgins lined up next to Roquan Smith on Sundays. The idea alone should make Ravens fans grin. Playing alongside one of the league's top linebackers would accelerate Higgins' development in ways that film study alone can't. Roquan's sideline-to-sideline instincts, paired with Higgins' decisiveness, could give Baltimore's defense a middle-of-the-field duo that's as disruptive as it is disciplined. And with the Ravens' knack for unearthing defensive gems that other teams pass over, Higgins could be the next big find. Of course, he's not walking into an open spot uncontested. There's Trenton Simpson, last year's presumed starter who lost his job mid-season, but still enters camp with the advantage of experience. There's rookie Teddy Buchanan, drafted this year, who's on the same development timeline as Higgins. And there's veteran Jake Mill, a special teams specialist who could still earn defensive snaps. The competition is stiff, but the early signs suggest Higgins isn't just trying to make the 53-man roster, he's aiming to carve out real defensive snaps. The Ravens' linebacker depth chart isn't the only storyline brewing. Fans are still buzzing about Ray Lewis showing up at practice with Lamar Jackson, sparking those what-if daydreams about Lewis coaching the team someday. It's not going to happen, but just imagining the defensive mentality and intensity he'd bring his fans fired up. And speaking of fire, there's chatter about positional shifts and roster moves too, from the idea of moving Malik Cunningham back to quarterback due to the crowded wide receiver room, to whether Daniel Falale's preseason struggles at guard should prompt changes. But for all the debates, the fact remains, Higgins has already put quality film on tape, the kind that makes it hard to ignore him when roster cuts come. The Ravens have a history of finding undrafted linebackers who end up contributing far more than expected, and this could be the latest chapter in that tradition. The question now is simple: can Higgins turn one impressive preseason performance into a full-on campaign for playing time? And if he does, who's ready to see him next to Roquan Smith on opening day? If Jay Higgins is going to make that leap from promising preseason player to key contributor, it's going to come down to two things: consistency and adaptability. One strong game can get you noticed, but in Baltimore's system, you've got to prove you can bring that same energy, awareness, and production every single week. Coaches aren't just watching whether you make a big play, they're watching whether you do your job on every snap, even when the ball isn't coming your way. That's what separates a camp standout from a long-term fixture, and that's why Higgins' film is so encouraging. It's not just the splash plays, it's how quickly he diagnoses run versus pass. It's how he positions himself to take away throwing lanes before the quarterback even realizes it. It's the fact that, even without NFL experience, he's already showing discipline in a league where rookies often get caught over pursuing or biting on fakes. Those are traits you can build a career on, and they're even more impressive coming from an undrafted player who wasn't expected to be here in the first place. Now, let's be real, this isn't a fairy tale where Higgins just walks in and takes a starting job without a fight. Trenton Simpson is still the presumed frontrunner, and he has every reason to want to hold onto that role after losing it last year. Teddy Buchanan has draft capital behind him, and Jake Mill's special teams value means he's got another path to stick around. But Higgins has one advantage none of them can replicate: surprise factor. Opponents don't have a scouting report on him yet. If he makes the roster and gets early snaps, he can catch offenses off guard before they've had time to game plan for his tendencies. That's a real edge, and in the NFL, small edges can win games. Beyond that, Higgins fits the Ravens' identity. This team thrives on players who arrive with something to prove, who play with a chip on their shoulder, and who buy into the next man-up mentality. Think about the undrafted success stories in Baltimore's past: Guys who started as depth pieces and ended up making big plays in big moments. Higgins looks like he could be cut from that same cloth. And while we're talking about the defense as a whole, there's another layer here. If Mike Green really is the next Elvis Dumervil like some fans have speculated, and if David Ohabo can stay healthy and finally deliver on his potential, Baltimore's pass rush could give quarterbacks nightmares. Pair that kind of pressure with a young linebacker like Higgins who thrives on quick reads and clean tackling, and suddenly you've got a defense that can suffocate opponents in multiple ways. But the Ravens can't just rely on potential, they need execution. That's why the next preseason games are huge. We need to see whether Higgins can keep stacking good performances. Can he stay assignment sound when facing more complex offensive looks? Can he handle faster reads against veteran quarterbacks? Can he show that week 1 wasn't just an adrenaline-fueled peak, but the beginning of his baseline performance level? The truth is, the Ravens' inside linebacker spot next to Roquan Smith is still up for grabs. And if Higgins can prove he's the guy to fill it, it changes the shape of this defense. He wouldn't just be a feel-good undrafted story, he'd be a core piece of a unit with championship aspirations. And the fact that this possibility even exists right now, after just one preseason game, says a lot about the kind of player Higgins might be. If the Ravens do decide to start Jay Higgins alongside Roquan Smith, it wouldn't just be a bold move, it would be a statement about the kind of team they want to be in 2025. Baltimore has always prided itself on being a franchise that rewards performance over pedigree, draft status, contract size, even years in the league. None of that matters as much as whether you can get the job done on Sundays. Starting Higgins would send a clear message to every player in that locker room. If you show up, work hard, and make plays, you'll get your shot, no matter where you came from. That's not to say there wouldn't be risks. The NFL is an unforgiving league for rookies, especially undrafted ones. Opponents adjust quickly. Coordinators would test Higgins with play action, misdirection, and pre-snap motion to see if they can get him second-guessing himself. They try to isolate him in coverage against athletic tight ends or shifty running backs, forcing him into uncomfortable matchups. But here's the thing, based on the early tape, Higgins has the discipline and processing speed to survive those tests, and maybe even turn them into opportunities. If he can hold his own against those challenges, Baltimore's defense could benefit in a huge way. Roquan Smith is already one of the most complete linebackers in football, but pairing him with another quick-reacting, instinctive linebacker could close the few soft spots opposing offenses try to exploit. It could make the Ravens' middle-of-the-field coverage airtight, while also boosting their run defense by ensuring ball carriers rarely reach the second level untouched. And let's not overlook the long-term implications. If Higgins becomes a legitimate contributor, Baltimore could have one of the league's most cost-effective linebacker duos. That kind of roster efficiency frees up cap space for other needs, like adding more pass rushers, locking down offensive linemen, or extending key playmakers on offense. It's the same type of smart roster building that has kept the Ravens competitive year after year. The preseason will tell us more, but right now the energy around Higgins feels different. Fans are talking, coaches are noticing, and if he keeps stacking good games, it won't be just about whether he makes the roster, it'll be about how big his role can get, and how quickly. So I'll throw it to you, Ravens flock. If Higgins dominates the rest of the preseason, should the Ravens take the risk and start him right away, or bring him along slowly behind the veterans?